This is CXO Secrets, the podcast that takes you inside the mind of business leaders and reveals the strategies behind their success. Coming up in today's show,
my focus is how can I make money for the company or save money for the company. Whatever we do, right, if it is not impacting business is of no use. It's of no value to business. These 3 H for a cultural transformation. First, winning the heart of the people. Second, getting to their head, whatever you're talking about. And third is enabling their head. So this is a big part of my cultural transformation strategy. I always apply. If you are an optimistic guy and a risk taker, today or tomorrow, people will start believing in you.
the CXO Secrets podcast is powered by EDS, Going Beyond Connections. Find out about upcoming C-level events, experiences, and insights at edsxevents.com. Vineet Jaiswal, Chief Information and Digital Officer at EET Fuels. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thanks a lot for inviting me.
So fill in the gaps for us, Vineet, because I'm sure some listeners will be familiar with the SR Oil brand, but maybe not EET Fuels. So I know there's been a bit of a transition there, transformation. What's the story with regards to the branding, the name of the company, and maybe the change of strategy as well? I don't know.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, when I was hearing about what's happening in the company, when I was looking for roles, what I have to take up, and when I came to know about the whole thought process around how the company is transforming the energy sector itself. We all know basically that there has been huge investment, billions of dollars across the world, investment done in some like in areas like refinery. And you cannot just shut that off and just move to electrical or any new technology. There has to be a transition phase. So EET actually reflects its SR energy transition. It's entire transition from the traditional or the way it was done to the future way. And the way we are going to do in future is we are going to use hydrogen. We are going to bring down. So I think 3 basic things in the entire thought process. First is decarbonization. How are we going to decarbonize and bring it down? Then decentralization, empowering areas, people, locations, work so that they can deliver better. And third is digitalization. So these 3 things are part of EET, big story, and I am part of EET Fuels.
Okay, so decarbonization, decentralization, and digitalization, did you say?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're those kind of 3 tenets. We'll remember those because I want to come back to them in a moment. But as far as your role there is concerned, you are a CIDO, a Chief Information and Data Officer. What specifically falls under your remit there?
So there are 2 sides of it. One side is that entire transformation, the digital transformation. When I say digital transformation, let me throw some light on that. My focus is how can I make money for the company or save money for the company. That means how can I help improve the top line, or how can, as a leader, help improve the bottom line. And it can be done in different ways. If I improve the throughput of the organization, reduce the cost, reduce the defect, or improve the safety. These are the 3-4 things which can help in the bottom line. Okay. Now on the top line side of it, how can I improve the sales of it? Right. Whatever we are producing, can we produce more so that we can sell more? So the focus is always from my digital head. How can I help organization either making more money or saving money? So improving the top line or bottom line. Now coming on the IT side of it, my IT side of myself says that how can we make sure that all the system of records, things like ERP or CRM, which is a foundation to the company, is running well. All the infrastructure, the IT infrastructure is running well. So that these things doesn't stop the vision of the company to transform. So IT is more of a system of record, and digital is more of a system of differentiation and system of innovation.
I like how you articulate that about no matter what role you have as chief this or digital that, ultimately you are serving the company's bottom line or serving the company's top line. And very often in technical roles, in digital roles, the saying goes that you're focused on the digital, you're focused on the technical, but not necessarily focused on the business itself. So it's certainly refreshing to hear that. From your peers and from your senior stakeholders, how close do you actually feel? Is that something that you've come into the role with that imperative for supporting the top and bottom line? Or is that something that you've had, that you've learned from the board there, that all they care, well, not all they care about, but ultimately that is what they're judged by?
I'll say, if you're asking me how did I decide, how did I come to know about what's the focus and all that, I think if I reflect back on my career itself, regardless of whether I am in the current role or my previous roles, I think this entire mindset started when I worked for about 17 years in GE, General Electric. So that mindset came from there. Whatever we do, right, if it is not impacting businesses, of no use. It's of no value to business. Right? So that business mindset I actually got developed long back when I started working for GE. And those 17 years when I stayed there, I developed it, I became better at that. Then I moved to a company known as JSW. I applied my thought process. I've created a framework. I call it a PPT framework, people, process, and technology. It's like a SWOT analysis of a company, right? I always do that, then put a strategy and the roadmap based on that. Then I applied in my next role with Vedanta. Now I applied the same thing in SR. So if that's a personal brand, that's a way I reflect my job. If I am doing work for someone, I have to make sure that it is always bringing some impact to the company. So it is not so when someone asks me, because they are expect when I come here, if someone tells me, if you hire a leader and tell them what to do, rather don't hire a leader, hire a manager. If you are hiring a leader, expect they bring in something for you, a refreshing change, so that they can help improve the company. I think that's the way I think leaders are hired for.
So with EET's strategy around decarbonisation and preparing this path for the sustainable future, what role do you see digital playing in the energy transition?
There are many, so we cannot define, and this will be dynamic also as it comes. But I will give you a few examples. If we can make sure while producing the end fuel, if we help reducing the like energy loss by capturing that, identifying on time, and eliminating and reduce. So if you spend less on generating the revenue, right, using the technology, helping the business identifying those gaps, that is one way. Second one can be predicting a machine failure, right? So proactive identification of failures. If we do that, that means the wastage will, because if you understand, I'm sure you understand refinery, right? The whole process to start and shut down is a long process.
Yep.
So those are all energy loss. So anything which we can do help company to improve the reliability, so that we know the cracker is going to fail because of certain reason, or is going to stop because of something, if we can predict that. So doing the predicting the failure. Now taking some examples from IT also. If we can move from data center to cloud, it's indirectly reducing the impact on like environment, right? So there are multiple ways to look at it. Can't be a straightforward rule. Okay, this is the written book, and you have to just follow the whole thing, right? We have to figure it out. On the journey, we identify opportunities and we apply that there.
The digital transformation part of your remit there, what's that involving for you at EET? You talk about the journey that from SR to EET is on right now, and about the decarbonisation, decentralization, digitization part of its journey and your remit there. So kind of more specifically, what is being transformed as part of your digital transformation? Are you going from on-prem to cloud? Are there different platforms that you're bringing in?
Let me give few examples. Okay, there are few basic things in the digital transformation. There are two sides of it. First is digitization of process, and then digitalization of the process. Digitization is, in a plain sentence, it's about moving something which is on paper to making it digital, right? So that we can,
Yep.
so if we can measure something, right? I'm sure you have heard this, right? If you can measure something, you can really manage it or improve it. So what
Yep.
we are trying to first do is, there are a lot of processes, which is very good processes, which has been followed over the years. How can we digitize the process? Like we have implemented BPM, business process management tool, one of the tools in market. It's a low code, no code platform. We have already digitized about 20 odd processes. If we would have gone to a standard product to develop these solutions, it would have taken years. But
Yep.
we took like a half cooked food, and we made sure what is needed for the business we can quickly give it. There are few projects which has been implemented in days, to few of them in weeks, right? So that's a one of the way where we help the business to digitize the process. Another example I can give is, we are trying to help business to create by creating a digital twin. So we realize there is something known as Pi Vision available, where we collect all the data. We used to get in the Pi system all the data about the SCADA and other OT system information. We presented the data in a way we can see the entire plant or the entire refinery at one place, and what are the critical equipments, how is the health of it, which are the alerts which is generating. Bringing all the data together was the second job. Bringing lot of data for them to take a decision at fast. Digitizing the process of the whole production report which is coming out, getting some insights quickly to them. So I think those are the kind, creating insights dashboards from Power BI. So there are multiple ways we are trying to help it out. It's not only about digitizing the process, but also once digitized, how can we get insights to the business so that they can take decisions faster.
Right. So actionable insights, digitally enabled, migrating from analog paper processes, understand all of that. That speaks to the technology,
Yeah.
and that speaks to the process side of the PPT that you mentioned earlier on. That doesn't speak to the people. So as a leader in this space, you are responsible for all three of
Yes,
those.
yes, yes.
How have you taken people on this journey to ensure that they're able to support your aim in delivering to the top and bottom line of the organization, and that they're not tripping over the transformation piece?
Yeah. So there is a concept which I believe in. It's a very important concept for me, which I believe, and I call it a owner's mindset. So when I have the owner's mindset, what are the things which I need to take care? So first thing is taking care of the business, making sure whatever business is needing in terms of help from IT and technology, we provide that. Then second is taking care of customers. So, if they need some information, helping improve our company's NPS by providing that information better and faster and cleaner to them is the second aspect. And third is taking care of employees, making sure that employee feel the difference. Now, there is something which I follow, and I call it a 3H philosophy. Okay, the 3H philosophy talks about how exactly you want to change something, right? To bring the change. So I always apply this way. First, you need to win the heart of the people. That means the first H stands for heart. So winning the heart of the people. So like, I will take an example. Like if you are a cricket fan, so trying to understand, if I just go and talk about technology, they will not like and talk about it. First, talk about something which is common. So if they are a cricket fan, tell them something which is very technology driven, but they can relate to, like the action replay, just to see LBW was given, like before wicket was given. And if it was technology was there, it would have not really, we could have never come to know about it. So once they relate, so once you have to win the heart. Second H is head. So once you win the heart, then you need to go to the head of those people by giving example relevant to them. So if somebody is in, say, finance, Giving an example, I will take an example. We were talking about that why exactly RPA should be used, a robotic process automation. What it does is, instead of somebody in finance team getting the mail, looking at the mail, comparing the invoices, going to SAP, logging in and accepting the invoice, the whole process can be automated. A robot can do that. It's a virtual robot. So when you explain them, they will understand, okay, this is something somebody else has done. Why can't we apply? Then the third H is enabling their hand. That means you have to, so if you have implemented some technology, you have to give training to them and you make sure that is adopted. So only rolling out a technology is not a big deal. Making sure they get adopted in the company, that's a success. So this 3H for a cultural transformation: first, winning the heart of the people; second, getting to their head, whatever you're talking about; and third is enabling their head. So this is a big part of my cultural transformation strategy. I always apply cautiously, but I always apply that.
3H. I love that. That's really tangible. And as you're saying, it's about making it relatable and understanding the keys as a leader, or as a manager. Sometimes it's about understanding the keys to unlock the people who you are working with and helping them to work for you. I like that very much indeed. What's the biggest challenge, though, that you face there? I mean, you've spoken again about all of the ways in which things go right. You've got a strong technology vision, and you've got an understanding of the tools and the processes then that need to change. You've got your 3Hs that can help you to unlock the potential of the workforce in delivering. But what for you is the challenge where you see leaders sometimes come unstuck there?
Building the trust. I think that's a important thing. If you ask me, there can't be a peanut butter approach to that, right? So it all depends on what all scenarios are there, right? So challenges keeps coming. You have to make sure that you overcome by being honest too. So I believe if we are honest to what we do, making sure that the personal work ethic and commitments are high, right? Somebody will not like you once, they may not like you second times, but I'm sure sometime they will like you, they will understand it, right? So another thing is, there is a concept which I'm just trying to remember. In GE there is to a concept, if you have to do, it was known as a CAP training, change acceleration process training. So in that it was taught is, there will be people who will support you, there will be detractors, and but there are people who will be in the border, both side of it. So what you have to do is, who are your promoters, will be use them to really get more people who are there in border towards the promoters. And on the detractors, there will always be 80-20 rule. You cannot convert and make everybody happy. So you have to understand that as a leader, you have to reflect that, understand that, and follow that. That's the way I see that.
Finally, for the kind of main part of our conversation here, before we come on to the end questions that we always do on this show, I just want to ask about innovation. And sometimes within larger organizations, established organizations, change, innovation can be difficult, and particularly in sensitive or well-regulated industries. But we all know that change is really important, more than ever before, because organizations are moving faster. We have challenger brands coming in, forcing us to be agile and adapt to changing market forces. So as a senior leader within larger organizations with responsibility like you do for transformation and innovation, what is your secret to fostering change, to fostering innovation, enabling a culture where people feel happy with change, but also feel free to innovate and to create new value, perhaps when history, culture, and inertia in big organizations might be against you?
I think I'll go back to reflect back to the one of the thing which I said, building the trust. That is the way I feel, and it doesn't come easy. While when you join an organization, this is not for me, anyone. If when they join their organization, they come with a certain image, right? This person can do that. You have to prove it every time. right? So bringing that back and rediscovering yourself, right? Building that trust is key thing. And it takes time. For few organizations, they may see, okay, you have brought it, but many places, and I've seen, for not for myself, also for my peers. And I'll tell you, this is something which I learned in GE itself. I did 7 roles in GE in 17 years, right? So it's like every 2 to 3 years, I was changing the roles. I was put in a different role. Somebody else wanted me to really join them and work with them. Right? When I got my first CI role in GE, I realized that it is not all black and white. There is a lot of gray area, and you have to. While as a techie, I was a great techie. Everybody knew that this guy can solve anything and everything, but being someone and building that trust was the key thing. And what I also realized that if you are an optimistic guy and a risk taker, today or tomorrow people will start believing in you, right? So you have to prove yourself that yeah, you can do it, and then you have to try for it, and you have to succeed. There are failures. Unless there is a failure, you will never succeed. Like whenever you do I'll take example of a runners, right? They do a sprinting. They always take a step back to go forward better. You need to know that sometimes failure will be there. Those are part and parcel of life, and make sure learn out of it. So either you have success or you have learning. There is no failure.
To finish the show today, there's 3 questions that we ask to all of our guests. And the first one is, what is your secret, Vineet? What's the main attribute or behavior or experience, maybe a failure to your point, that's guided you to where you are now?
One of my failures, I think one of my biggest failure in life was my Oracle implementation back in 2004. I was given a leadership role to implement rest part of the Oracle ERP. Being a young techie, I felt that whatever I implement, it will be perfect. And I actually developed it to the book. Whatever Oracle would have really suggested, we implemented that. It was a disaster because we never married to thought about what business want. So understanding that what business want, and this is the time, I think that was a defining moment for my career. That day, I think it was somewhere in August of 2004, I realized that this failure tells me, Vineet, you need to understand that whatever you do for business, business will not follow you. So you have to understand what the business problem is, understand what they need, and then develop the solution. Think everything like a Lego block. You put the Lego blocks together and solve the business problem. So this is one of my biggest failure, and I will never forget that because that has always been with me like a treasure.
Yes, use those failures to your advantage. And from how you spoke earlier on about the hyper focus on the top and bottom line for the business, it sounds as though you did use that failure very, very well. We also do a Pass the Question section in the show in which our previous guest from the previous episode asks a blind question to our next guest. And so we have Simon Clark, who was who still is the CIO at Clark's Shoes. He asked this question.
My question would be, what advice would you give your 16-year-old self if you could?
To a 16-year-old self, if I was back 16-year-old, I think I did everything right. Maybe if I was born today as a 16-year-old, I will tell that I have really lost because I have been part of the entire technology transformation journey. Right? I have learned all of them, so I don't regret anything. And I'm an optimistic guy. I never regret on anything. If anything has happened for bad, also there is some learning. If it is good, so the advice will be: make sure repeat what you have done. Never hurt anyone. I continue doing whatever you have been doing and be positive. Be honest to whatever you do. Be very ethical and continue doing that. So if I have to live another 34 years, I would do the same thing again.
And then finally, Vineet, you have the opportunity to pose a question to pass on to whoever is our next guest in the series. And that question can be whatever you like. Whatever you like. It can be serious. It can be not so serious. But our next guest may be a CIO, a CISO, a CDO, a CIDO. What question would you like me to pass on to them in the next episode?
This is an interesting one. Maybe ask them, so whatever is the retirement age, right, in whichever part of the world they are in, okay? So will a retired you will still like to see yourself what you have done in first half of your career? So if you divide the entire career into two parts, are you happy with what you have done in the first part of your career when you retire? So at the age of 60, let's assume you started at 20. So at 40, whatever you were doing, did you do everything right during that 40? Because after 40, people generally know what they're trying to do. So first half of their career, what they could have improved.
Really, really interesting question. I'm not going to lie, I'm over 40. I'm still trying to work out what I want to do when I grow up. I don't feel particularly grown up yet, but I think on the whole, your observation is absolutely right. And I'm thinking now how I might reflect on that one myself. But I will pose that question to the next guest here on the show.
Which I heard, another conversation on this age I heard. I never feel I'm old. Like when I was 20, I used to feel I'm young. When I was 30, I was young. 40, I'm young. Now I'm 50, I still feel young. And maybe it just moves 20 years ahead. When I was 20, I was 40-year-old guys. When I became 30, it became 50-year-old. Now I'm 50. It's like, 70 will be old. So being young in the head is the most important thing. So for you, David, I think you will always remain young if you feel young at 40.
Oh, hear, hear. I'll drink to that. Thank you very much for your question. And, stay tuned to hear who our next guest is and how they respond to that. But for now, Vineet Jaiswal, Chief Information and Digital Officer at EET Fuels, thank you so much for joining us on CXO Secrets.
Thanks a lot, David, and thanks a lot for inviting me. It was lovely talking to you today.